Hi, I'm Perry. Welcome to Living Your Best Life with Eddie Stone, founder and CEO of Touchstone Essential. Hello, Eddie.
Hi, Perry. Great to be with you today.
Yes, great to be with you too. So we have a new name of the show, Eddie. Living Your Best Life. Okay. Thank you for
I
being
like
with us.
I like that. That's a great name. I'm a big believer in people striving personally and professionally to be the best they can be, whatever that is. Everybody's different, but to aspire to be your best self, live your best life, I think that's a great thing.
Uh-huh. Okay, so I have a few compliments for you, Eddie, from my
Oh,
listener. Okay, first one from Robert Skeppel. Thank you so much, Perry, for getting Eddie on the show. He has such clarity and humor. Okay,
it's
and
very kind.
and the second one, Eddie, Ellen Laprise. I'm sorry to hear about your fall, Eddie. This is an important message. Explaining zeolite diagrams would be helpful to. I've used the powder zeolite form for years. Thank you. And another one, I am using zeolite and I have definitely noticed a big difference. Also trying the CBD and back pain gone and sleep a lot better. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing those, and I really appreciate the kind words. You have a very generous audience. Not just some of the comments like that you've read, but I've had some folks contact me through direct message on various social medias, and a couple people that have actually emailed to the company, and they're very kind and generous with their words, and I appreciate it. I appreciate that they take the time to share their thoughts. We enjoy sharing this message. This is my work, but I feel like it's my calling as well. And so to be able to talk about the things we can do and control to be our best selves, to live our life to the fullest, not only is it important, I think, for us, but as adults, I think also then we set some examples for kids and for those around us that are good, kind of a part of, contributing to the planet with our daily habits and behaviors. And so I appreciate that recognition, and thank you for sharing that. And just real quick, for the person that mentioned diagrams might be helpful, we have some little digital images on the shop page for both Pure Body and Pure Body Extra on the site. And there are some diagrams there. Maybe doesn't answer all the questions, and if there's specifics about that they would like us to cover, we can do that. But there are some diagrams there that can be useful. And then inside of our blog, we have some articles on zeolite, and some of those have diagrams as well. And so maybe that would help to answer those questions and create the understanding that person's looking for.
Uh-huh. Anybody have another one person want to know, because you and other Ken, I mean, on my show and other show, that after taking Zoom like about 3 months, it makes me feel the feeling of having more energy. I am taking zeolite, but after some weeks, I feel that I am losing energy. Why is that?
Well, I don't hear that very often, but I do hear it on occasion, and I don't know that I have a complete way to explain that. Everybody is so different, and we don't know about their lifestyle and some other issues. But I do know that as you detox the body, it takes a lot of energy. The body is working very hard. The zeolite, just like, say, eating deep leafy greens, which helps the body detox, they're just helping the body or aiding the body. The mechanics do that. Their mechanisms of actions, I should say. However, the body's got to do really the work, and it can be exhausting. When we talk about food, sometimes people don't necessarily realize that unless they're an athlete or have a job that's really physically demanding, probably the bulk of the energy that they utilize throughout the day is for digestion and then the management of food waste. I mean, it's probably 40% of the energy that the average person, barring special circumstances, would utilize. And so now think about what happens when you're trying to encourage the cells and blood and tissues and all these things to detox with what you eat, what you consume, like zeolite. And so I can see, particularly if they did have a lot of issues to deal with, if their toxicity levels were high, that it could be exhausting. And bear in mind, because I'll have people that will say, well, I used it for 30 days and, I feel okay. And that could be great. But what I really encourage people to think about is that unless you've really been working on a clean diet and atmosphere, you're breathing, water, all these things, and even then there's still some issues. It took a long time to accumulate the toxins in the body. A lot of exposure over, years, decades. I'm 55 years old. So, it's a long time that this accumulates. And so it's not an overnight exercise to help the body detox. And so that's why systemically using it daily is important, and repeatedly for a long period of time. That's my beliefs. And so I think it can be expected in maybe unusual circumstances that there could be a period of time where they're tired, exhausted.
Okay. Eddie, I have another question from Saffron Dijon. She's waiting for your answer. Okay. My daughter suffers greatly from Morgellons, the nanotechnology bugs believed to be in chemtrails that cause severe itching with hair, like bugs coming out of her skin. People who have this have killed themselves. It is so terrible. Morgellons is not recognized by the CDC, although it is an epidemic in the United States, and doctors are prevented from treating it. We have tried everything. Will the zeolite help her? Thank you for your time.
Well, the sort of initial answer is it's difficult to know if the zeolite will make a difference. Morgellons disease is there is some controversy as was recognized, because the CDC and other institutions really don't even know how to diagnose and or manage the diagnosis. And so it goes largely unexplained and creates that controversy. And truthfully, I really feel for their situation, because there's very few common answers. It's just bottom line, it's poorly understood. And you can think about somebody suffering with these issues because they have those emerging sores. And you can think about how difficult it must be just everyday living and sleeping and resting like we take for granted, because they're trying to fight these issues. So the most consistent thing that I've seen over time is that there's some suspicion that it's a tick-borne disease, not unlike Lyme's. Maybe it's an offshoot of Lyme's. That probably doesn't provide all the answers, but that's one of the things that we hear about. Conventionally, often what happens is that we'll be treated with very heavy amounts of antibiotics. And the feeling is that, well, over time, it's going to kill off whatever's there, even though we don't know what it is. And so, I hope that they are able to find a healthcare professional, someone with good credentials that they can build a relationship with, and that person with their background, getting to know the family, getting to know the patient, can understand better what they're consuming, what their health habits are, what the past is like. They may give them some common sense guidance. When I look at things like this where there's no clear answers, I go back to what are the practical things I can do to give my body the best chance to fight whatever the illness is, whether it's identified or unidentified. And so I look at the quality of the food we consume, staying away from ultra processed foods and fast foods and things like that as much as possible. I look at what I'm consuming liquid wise. And so teas and waters and not soft drinks and these kinds of things. I stay away from sugar because that can inhibit the body's immune system and how it performs. And along with my habits, consuming the fruits and vegetables and the supplements we have, and also consuming zeolite, I would hope I give the body the best chance to fight it. And so I think the person can be optimistic about the role zeolite can help play to relieve some of these symptoms. Maybe there's a total answer, but it's just very difficult to know. And I think there's a lot of patience required, and exploration, and considering diet, rest, exercise, and trying to use a common sense approach to just what we know would be good, healthy habits, regardless of the condition.
Okay. Elion, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, in the United States, and I think there are quite a few nations around the world that also do this, we have Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so, there's a lot of what I call pink that's highlighted with companies. Our logo, we've turned it pink for the month because it's a chance for us to bring attention to an issue that unfortunately is extremely widespread in the US alone. And I think these numbers are very similar in most of the developed world. 1 in every 8 women will have issues with breast cancer during their lifetime. And so that's our wives and our daughters and our moms and our sisters and people inside our community. And so it's a very difficult issue. And unfortunately, we still have a lot of women that die from breast cancer, even though we know quite a bit about it still today. And so I thought it would be good for us to think about those issues and maybe add to that discussion skin cancer, because we're sort of dealing with things from a prevention standpoint that can play a role in both of those. And so what I'd like to highlight is that one of the more important ways a person can do their best to reduce their risk of developing breast cancer is to pay attention to diet. So those things that I was just speaking about, right? Less processed food, ultra-processed foods, good, clean water, exercise, sleep, all of those things are really critical. But particularly we know that in the research that's out there, and I'm talking about research that's published in undeniable peer-reviewed journals, meaning it's really well-tested science. I think one of the last studies I read, some 4,000 different papers positive on the subject, is that one of the things to pay attention to is a person or woman's vitamin D levels. In vitamin D, we tend to think of vitamin D as primarily the vitamin our body produces when we're exposed to sunlight. The challenge is, in today's world, there's a whole lot of indoor living that takes place. And then there's also the issue where we're so afraid of skin cancer, where people are using quite liberally sunscreens. And so, and I'm not going to argue that that's a bad idea, because we know sun damage from excess exposure to the sun, the burning of the skin, can damage the DNA and make a person more vulnerable to developing skin cancer. So we know those are all sort of real issues, and it's almost this tight line a person has to walk or to sort of manage this issue. And so when it comes to sunlight, we know a couple of things that are important. If your trunk of your body is exposed to the sun, it can help the body produce more vitamin D. And we know sort of those midday hours are when the sun is intense enough to do that. However, we've got to also balance the burning of the skin. And the face isn't good enough. We definitely know that you can't really get enough sun on the face in a healthy way that's going to have a dramatic impact on the production of vitamin D. And so supplements are important in this category. The challenge is most of the vitamin D supplements out there are made from isolates or synthetics. And so their effectiveness in the body is pretty small. And so women have to take really large dosages of vitamin D to try to get anything that would sort of raise that blood serum level of vitamin D from a measurement standpoint. And so one of the things people don't think a lot about is where you can get vitamin D from food. And so I'll get into some areas, but what we as a company recognize as one of the best sources out there are mushrooms. And mushrooms can be really helpful in this regard, because mushrooms, they have a quality that's not unlike our skin. And so if you harvest a mushroom, it's the right mushroom, and it's sort of grown in the right cycles and these kinds of things. When you harvest it, if you flip it over so that the gills are exposed to the sun, vitamin D will develop just like our skin. I kind of think it's an interesting image to think about. And so we believe supplementing with vitamin D is crucial. And if you can do that with a whole food product, we do. I mean, full disclosure here, we offer a product called Super Greens Plus D that is made of a organic, whole sourced mushroom that has vitamin D, 2,000 IUs in a daily serving. We think that that's really crucial to get those blood serum levels up of the vitamin D. And of course, when you're doing it with food, and that could be because you're eating a lot of dark green leafy fruits and vegetables, or like this mushroom, then you get those other constituents. So beta-glucans that you would find in a properly grown and prepared mushroom also help to boost the immune system, particularly your large macrophage white blood cells that are really NK or natural cancer killers. And so, these are all sort of important to think about from a dietary standpoint, either because of what you eat or what you supplement with, because the bottom line is vitamin D is incredibly effective. We know from doing research that it helps to modulate some 60 different genes in the human body. And those genes are genes that can control things from a proliferation standpoint with cancer, anti-tumor, anti-metastatic, which it refers to how things spread throughout the body. And so here's what we know. It's just very clear that women with high levels of vitamin D are 80% or lower their risk of breast cancer by 80% compared to women with low levels of vitamin D in the body. And so just given that vitamin D is accessible and affordable, you're talking about studies covering thousands and thousands of women, then a woman should think about the amount of vitamin D she's getting in your body. And then, of course, we're advocates of whole food supplements, so they want to think about it that way. And so if you are trying to sort of think about these issues, let me give you some foods. Actually, I printed a little list here of some of the best foods. And then this would also be applicable for those that are trying to manage risk associated with skin cancer. And one of the most important things you can do if you have access in your healthcare system to have your skin checked and mapped on an annual basis, particularly as you become an adult, where you've got a healthcare professional that's looking at your skin, looking for abnormalities in moles or other spots that pop up on the skin. And if you see something, not to ignore it, to seek medical attention to the affected area on the face, the scalp, the trunk of the body, the legs, the arm. I mean, it can be anywhere, because these are cancers that are extremely dangerous and they can proliferate inside the body very, very quickly. And so skin cancer, like breast cancer, is not something to ignore. It's something to completely pay attention to. But if you want to make sure that you've got greens in your diet that are rich in nutrients, but also rich in chlorophyll, a nutrient as well. And so things like spirulina, chlorella, spinach, parsley, watercress, kale, Barley grass, wheatgrass, green beans, arugula. And if you don't like greens, I would first say to you, start liking greens. They're important for everybody, men and women, beyond just this subject of skin cancer and breast cancer. But if you just hate them, then find a green juice supplement that you can drink and will drink, and you want to use it on a daily basis. We have a good product, but it's not the only product. And so find something that you'll use, because you need green fruits and vegetables in your life, in your diet. It's chlorophyll, bottom line, and the other ingredients help to protect the cells in the body from things like skin cancer and also from breast cancer. And so for some listening, they probably think you say the same thing every time, Eddie, and I do, because if you want to have your best life and live to your fullest, then thinking about your diet, less ultra-processed foods and fast foods and more fruits and vegetables, it's really, really important. And then there's also the prevention, though. So I spoke about the skin cancer, having your body checked and mapped on an annual basis. And then with breast cancer, self-examination for women is really crucial. One thing I'd like to do, Perry, if it's okay, and maybe when you post the show notes, maybe you can put this link in there. But for those that happen to be on Instagram, it's also on Facebook, although I know Facebook sometimes it's more difficult to find. But if you go to the Good Inside Instagram or Touchstone Essentials, you can look it up either way. You'll notice that a post that occurred yesterday, we've got a group. It's a group that does a couple things. One is their sort of title is Save a Boob. That's one of their references. And then they have a non-toxic agenda, which is basically looking for skincare and household products for people to use that aren't toxic. But they have a self-examination awareness program going this month. And so please go look at our post and read about it. We'd love to see you post to acknowledge it. What we're going to do based upon the activity we see, we've donated some product to their organization. We're also going to make a monetary or financial donation to them at the end of the month based upon the activity we create, because this is a critical for us. I mean, we are in the business of selling products, but we're more in the business of helping people live a healthy life. And so prevention, whether it's diet and food, or whether it's self-examination, is also very crucial. And so hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Of course, as always, if you've got questions, post them. We'll tackle them. And Perry, hopefully that's a subject that will resonate with you locally as well.
Eddie, I took your green product during the 10-day weight loss challenge, right? It tastes good. I can confirm. It tastes very good. And I will have to get more sun in the morning. Okay, Eddie, thank you. But before going, I have a cap for my listener, okay? Thailand.
Put your head down. Thailand, I like it. I like it. Love the accents on the letters.
Okay. Just answer to my one question. What is the full name of capital city of Thailand? Not only Bangkok, we have a very long name. Just to answer me this question, and then you can get this cap. Okay, that's it.
That's fun. Educational. Force people to do a little geography work. I like it. Thank you for having me, Perry, and thanks for everybody that tuned in today.
Okay, see you next time, Eddie. Bye-bye.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.